Hello, and welcome to another episode of Set Musings. So, in our journey through various sets in Magic's history, we're now up to a point where we see the return of core sets. And this is its reintroduction as part of the 3-in-1 model. So the first set we saw under the 3-in-1 model, where blocks just went away completely, was in the previous episode, which was about Dominaria. So core set 2019, we've got 280 cards in the set, and it's 111 commons, 80 uncommons, 53 rares, 16 mythic rares, 20 basic lands. There's 20 Planeswalker deck exclusives. There's a buy a box promo, and there's 13 cards in the welcome deck as well. In terms of thematically, we've got dragons in the set, and for keywords abilities, there's a number of evergreen keywords and transform in this. Now, I say evergreen mechanics, so just to clarify that the set doesn't feature any other new or returning non-evergreen mechanics. And often, with core sets, you find the complexity is dialed down to make the learning curve less steep. And there's a few more vanilla creatures in here, and a few more of those cards that buff other cards of the same subtype. So like a tribal card. I think sometimes they're called tribal lords. I believe there's also several combos in here, but I don't think I'm going to be specifically looking at that. Also reintroduces the egg subtype. And I believe the first set to feature the Vivian Planeswalker type. It'd be interesting to see with the two colour cards that pattern that we've seen for numerous sets now, where they're using two colour cards at uncommon as archetype indicators for drafting purposes. So we'll see how that manifests itself, if at all. So I'm sure we'll talk about some of the non-basic lands that are in the set. I find it's always interesting core sets. You get these cards that crop up sometimes which you don't expect. It's actually listing 25 cards here from the Planeswalker decks in Scryfall. You can see again these sort of, for want of a word, like special cards that aren't in the boosters have a number above 280. There's the buy a box card, and then 8 cards in the starter deck. I wonder if it's reported slightly differently. Yeah, so on MTG Wiki they've actually got 13 welcome deck cards and 20 Planeswalker deck cards. It looks like the breakdown on Scryfall slightly differently. The resulting number is the same. It's just on here it's 25 and 8 instead of 20 and 3. And yeah, they're just to clarify. So there's basically 34 cards above 280, which is the cutoff for the collector's number for the cards that are in the boosters. And when we go through and slice and dice this, don't forget it does include all of these as part of the slicing and dicing. So I'm sort of treating the set as a whole, even though some of the cards aren't available in the boosters. And we're looking at themes. It's a core set, so we're going to see quite a number of reprints here. And you can see there's 113 reprints across the booster cards and also the various decks and buy box promo. We've got 181 cards which are new in the set. So going through the different colour combinations, we've got 24 of these cards where there's, you can cast it with any colour, and the colour identity is colourless. So ID is 0, colour is 0 in Scryfall. Now of course it might make a mention to generating 1 mana of any colour, but none of the activation costs have a colour in them. And you can see already, just scrolling through here, there's a couple of cards that generate multiple colours of mana. We've got Manalith, and we've got Dragon Horde as well. It's interesting to see Crucible of Worlds in here, which allows you to play land cards from your graveyard. So we have one card where there's no colour in the casting cost, but it has a colour identity as a result of there being an activation cost colour here. So in terms of the truly monocolour cards, so single colour casting cost, if there's any activation cost, it's a single colour. We have 241 cards, so that's actually most of the set, which again, isn't unusual for a core set for that to happen. There's nothing where there's it's monocolour in the casting cost and then there's multiple colours as a result of there being activation cost colours. So we have 10 two-colour cards. That breaks down rather nicely, doesn't it? I'm sure if that's the case that these are draft archetypes, we will revisit these as part of a cycle, but it looks extremely likely. You can see here, so we've got white, blue, blue, black, black, red, red, green, green, white, white, black, blue, red, black, green, red, white, and green, blue. So all of the different two-colour combinations. There are some cards where there's more than 2 colours. So we have 5 of these, including one which is transform here. And notice they're all Elder Dragons. So 36 creature cards which have white in them. Let's just see what we're seeing here in terms of the subtypes. So humans, dwarves, angel. There's a legendary creature. It'd be interesting to see the what they do with the legendary creatures. There's several core sets where they used to often have like a legendary creature in each of the colours. Not always, but that became a thing. I remember there was at least one, was it in 10th edition? There's probably more than one legendary creature actually in each colour, but that's often a thing. Got some cats, birds, angels, a horse, an elk. But yeah, lots of humans. Oh, there's a beast in white there. And then the 2-colour combination ones. Human artificer, satyr, vampire soldier, white, black. And then, 3 of the 3 colours share white in there. In blue, elementals. Aha, hurrah. You know I like an elemental. Birds. Spirit, pirate. Jinn, human wizard, serpent. Lots of stuff here. Sphinx is a shapeshifter. More human shapeshifters. Oh, got a drake in white and a horsefish. There's a wall and some 2-colour cards that share blue, and then again 3 cards which share blue in the dragons. Black. It's 36 black cards, yeah, or 36 creature cards in black. Vampires, demons, zombies, yeah, humans cropping up in all colours here. Yeah, number of zombies. Nightmare horse. Skeleton. Yeah, quite a number of zombies there. And a smattering of vampires and skeletons. Like in here, when you've got a set where there's real symmetry in the colour combinations, you know, like 10 in 2 colour and then 5 in the 3 colour, then you're going to see this sort of repeating pattern of, you know, in this case 4 and 3. Oh, another elemental. More dragons. Looks like we've got some monocoloured dragons here actually. Goblins in red. Some Minotaur, Helion. Oh yeah. A number of dragons. Looks like there might be some extra cards here as well. I'm just trying to work out whether there was slightly more 2-colour cards in the previous one. So we're on to red now. And then in green, 38 green cards. Yep. It's got dinosaurs cropping up. Humans, druids, naiads, elves. A few elves. Oh, got an old giant spider. Another dinosaur. Got a legendary creature, bear. Another elk. A worm. Yeah, the usual creature things that you get. It's nice with core sets, you know, often got a pretty large set and a nice range of different creature types. But yeah, definitely quite a few elves there. Okay, big spells. There's 9 of those. We've got instants, enchantments, some creatures, sorcery. One of the legendary creature elder dragons is, you know, what's that? 7 mana total, and we've got meteor golem as well. So it looks like, yeah, everything here. Let me just sort this by CMC. I can find it. That's better. So what does it max out at? Omniscience and Apex of Power. 10 mana spell. Okay, so what I did here is if it mentions dragon as a type, or it mentions dragon somewhere in the Oracle text, the extended Oracle text, then it's on this list, just to give you some idea. So you can see, looking at the colours, we've got one black dragon. There's also like a creature human warrior that cares about dragons. So yeah, no surprise, heavy red dragon presence, and then we've got a number of other cards. We've got obviously the 3-colour Elder Dragon Legends. We've got this artifact which also cares about dragons, and then a number of dragons themselves. You've got a couple of planeswalkers here as well. So what I thought I'd do is I'd try and, show the whole keyword thing here by going through the different rarities and just showing you all the cards that were keyworded. So just to give you some idea of the extent of the evergreen keywords in the set. So we got 34 cards at common where they have some sort of keyword in them. So you can see we've got flying, vigilance, lifelink. In fact, it's interesting. Yeah, so enchant creature is clearly classed as a keyword. Interesting. Flying, vigilance. Oh yeah, so I could probably net those out actually. If we were looking. So if I can do this on the fly. If I net out the oracle having the word enchant in it, this is a very rough way of doing it. We're left with 27. Moving on to uncommon, so 34 keyworded cards. But of course here it's a bit tricky to do that because some of these are both enchanted and they have keywords in them, so but let's just try and get an idea whether we've got anything super. It looks like most of the stuff is obviously flying, trample, vigilance, reach, menace, defender. And moving on to the rares, 19 that have some sort of keyword on them. Death touch, indestructible. So yeah, quite a number of flyers, and not surprising the fact that it's a dragon set. And then at mythic, so 8, and these are probably dotted all over the place. There's all our Elder Dragon legendary creatures. So here's Nicol Bolas, the Ravager. Has so there's a transform here. Let me just go back to the dragons. So you can just see that what it transforms into. So when Nicol Bolas the Ravager enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card. And then there's a cost here. You can exile Nicol Bolas the Ravager, then return him to the battlefield transformed under his owner's control. Activate this ability only any time you could cast a sorcery. And it transforms into a legendary Planeswalker Bolas. Wow, there's 4 here. +2, -3, -4, and the -12 ultimate. Starts off with 7 loyalty. So moving on to the cycles, you have, I've included nicol bolas here, you have 5 monocolour planeswalkers, each of whom has appeared in some form in nicol bolas's history. I don't know why I ended up with that twice, but never mind. Oh, 3 times. Crikey. I was obviously trying to work on something there that never happened. That's funny. And we've got signature spells. 5 rare spells, each related to one of the face planeswalkers of the set and showcasing a pivotal moment in their history. Five rare legends, they're monocoloured. Five tribal lords, so knights, spirits, skeletons, goblins and elves. Cycle of mares, so 5 uncommon horses that each hose an enemy colour and can't be blocked by creatures of that colour. In total we have 10 tap lands, so you've got 5 allied coloured tap lands and then 5 enemy coloured tap lands. So the 5 allied colour common tap lands, originally printed in Oath of the Gatewatch, that each come into play tapped and tap for one of each of the 2 colours of mana, and then the corresponding 5 enemy colour common lands which were printed in Shadows over Innistrad originally. And I'm sure I've mentioned this numerous times but I'll mention this again if this is the first of the set musings you've watched. These common tap lands were seeing more and more printings across sets. They cropped up in the toolkits. They seemed to become almost like a go-to way of doing mana fixing in a set. Obviously, specifically, I suppose, for draft purposes and sealed. Then, as we surmised, 5 mythic elder dragons characters who each originally appeared in Legends. 1 is a double face card, which is nicol bolas. So we've got Chromium, nicol bolas, Vivictus as Mardi, Palladia Moors and Arcades. So these are the original characters, were the original elder dragons, which you could argue the whole of EDH is based around from way back in the day. So yeah. Now the other thing we have is we have a cycle from the precons only, so 5 Planeswalker variants with simpler abilities included in the Planeswalker decks for M19, and we'll be looking at the Planeswalker decks in a moment. And the Welcome decks also had a cycle in them, so again precon only, 5 rare creatures that are only included in the Welcome decks and Planeswalker decks. And then another 5, these were called dig spells, so 5 rare spells each themed after a planeswalker that give an effect and dig through the top 5 cards of the caster's library for a card of the same colour, except for one case where it can also dig for artefacts. These replace the planeswalker tutors previously found in the planeswalker decks. So yeah, you can see they've got this weird cycle where I suppose this is the blue one, but it's an artifact. Another precon only, so these are helper spells, 5 uncommon creatures that get a bonus when you control the relevant planeswalker. Did I make a mistake there? Yeah, ignore the air elemental. Because that's an uncommon, so it's these one. Yeah, interesting with the blue. Another artifact. So yeah, pretend this one isn't there. And then there were 5 common cards appearing as a full play set in the Planeswalker deck, so 4 of. Again, you can see it looks like the Tezzeret deck was obviously artifact heavy, but we'll see again when we have a look at that. Partial cycle, we've got this Nicol Bolas's Rain. So 3 cards in Bolas, colours across multiple rarities depicting the reign over Amonkhet, fall from power after the mending and subsequent return to strength. And 4 1-mana hoses, so cards with a converted mana cost of 1 that have an unusual hosing effect, most more useful outside of standard. There is no green member of the cycle. We have 22 mythics in the set. And you can see by the numbering, some of these are from the precons. Land. So 4 of each of the different colours of mana. I think one of the commander decks that I featured recently contained some M19 land. There's our 13 non-basics. So you can see in here we've got the common tap lands, and then additionally we have Detection Tower, we have Reliquary Tower, and also a Rupture Spire as well. Like I said, I'm always out on the lookout for interesting lands that appear in core sets. When was this? Yeah, it's only ever been printed in this core set. Cool. Reliquary Tower. Yeah, it got reprinted a lot in the Commander product, but I'm never sure with this how many times it's turned up outside of the Commander product. Yeah, so you had it in, this is one from the, oh that's from Conflux, M13, and then loads from the Commander product and Special product. Interesting different art there. Oh, looks like there's some M19 alternate art. Okay. 11 Planeswalker cards. So what you'll see here is 2 from each of the colours. So 1 from the set as pertains to what was in the boosters, and 1 from the Planeswalker precons, and then the additional one is Nicol Bolas. here because it transforms into a planeswalker. So we've got legendaries here as well. There's 9. So white, blue, black, red, green. And then the Elder Dragons. But what I should be able to do is, if I do this, oops, I'm assuming yeah, there's nickel bowlers, so it's obviously being screened out because my search there took out some planeswalkers, the original one. 162 creatures in the set, 11 enchantments, 13 auras, which it looks like most of them are enchanting a creature except for this one, which does a land. And always interesting to see, what aura they put in green, which effectively buffs your lands. Eight artifact creatures. And of course, remember, some of these are from the... let me just check that actually before I say something that's wrong. So one of these is from the precons. And we've got some equipment. There's 3 pieces of equipment. 14 artifacts. It's a little bit easier then to see which ones are in the Planeswalker decks. So yeah, these 2. Got Manolith in here and Millstone. Explosive Apparatus. $33 instants. So it's a core set. So I expect the usual, what would you go, common utility things that you see at it, instant speed. This is what core sets did so well, is just the usual things. So you get some interesting pump going on until end of turn. You get life gain, so we're talking about white here obviously. You get there's some conditional, actually this is interesting. Exile target permanent with converting mana cost 1. Indestructibility, pump and flying. Life gain, so in blue. Bit of library stuff. These interesting asymmetric depletions that blue often does, instant speed, combat trick. Counter spells, bounce, more counter spell, more bounce. You got stuff where you've got that again, that minus, like a -2, -0 here, with draw a card on it. There's our black destruction spell, destroy target creature, 1 and 2 black, murder. Okay, that's interesting. Strangling spores. Yeah, -3/-3 spell. And then the red direct damage spells in all sorts of various variants, dealing with artifacts. Asymmetric pump, more pump, and then green, dealing with artifacts and enchantments, dealing with flyers, dealing with combat damage, and then we got the pump spell in this set, which is a +4/+4, the Titanic growth on the green. Sorcery speed. Here's your sort of destruction in blue, which is conditional. And there's our sort of mass removal spell. Some more card draw in various guises. Oh, we've got switcheroo in the set. And then we've got some hand manipulation in black. Some discard. Sorcery speed destruction. Some mill. Life drain. Act of treason's in the set in red. And then some sorcery speed damage. We've got lava axe here, which often crops up in core sets. You know, it's a high cost spell, but in drafting, you know, in sealed, it's a great finisher, like 5 damage. Tectonic Rifts in here. Thud. Tormenting Voice makes a reappearance, as does Rabbit Bite. So of course with core sets as they are at this point, and as they've been since M10 I think, it's 50-50 roughly, as you've seen. So of course it gets to pull down lots of interesting instants and sorceries from throughout Magic's history. Interesting, we've got a 2-colour sorcery here. Which would explain, you know, when I was going through and looking at the different colour combinations, why we might be seeing slightly more than just the usual. Oh no, that was looking at the draft indicator, so it must be one of the draft indicators is a sorcery. I'll just correct myself there. So back to the set as a whole. Let's look at the breakdown now in terms of how things stack up against prices and EDH rec stats. So most expensive card, Resplendent Angel. Then we've got Nicol Bolas, second place. Scape Shift. So we're still well above 20 here. Sarkhan Dragon Soul. Crucible. Wow, that's way back from 5th Dawn. 19. Nexus of Fate. And yep, dropped down to just above 10 with Sarkhan. This would have been... So is that the case that I think this happened before, didn't it? Where, yeah, the pre-con Planeswalker is more expensive than the one in the set. And then Omniscience, well, still just holding above $10 here. And then Liliana. Again, that's the one from the Planeswalker decks. Okay. Now looking at the EDH Rec ranking. So here we're looking at all the new cards. So top of the pile we've got Cleansing Nova, Meteor Golem, Colossal Majesty, Sire Master Thopterist, and so on. Then the reprints, yeah, I'm not surprised. Reliquary Tower, Llanowar Elves, Reclamation Sage, Crucible of Worlds, Render of the Meek, Snipe, Reassembling Skeleton. Yeah, here's so many decks where you're doing graveyard shenanigans and sacrifice decks and stuff where you want, you know, other cards to trigger when something dies, and then you can get it back, and yeah, all sorts of recursion stuff. So no surprise to see that high. I've got a Death Baron here, which is your skeleton and zombie lord. There's Murder. So mash the two together, and what do we see? So yeah, these bubble above Cleansing Nova, so these are all the reprints. I suppose one of the things we've noticed before with a core set, so many of the reprints have the potential to sort of bubble to the top. So I was just curious as to where we see our first Elder Dragon, and I think, if I'm right, that might be it. Yeah. So in order of popularity against EDH Rec, we've got Psy, Listless, Goreclaw. So we've got the three of the legendary creatures, the monocolour legendary creatures, and then we have the three of the Elder Dragons. Then the next two of the legendary creatures out of the five that were monocolour, and then the two remaining dragons. So what do we actually have in terms of various other components in here? That was released alongside. So with the core set, what they did was it had 5 Planeswalker decks, one for each of the colours, and that's why you were seeing a lot of those cycles, which were pre-con only cycles. And also they had welcome decks as well in here. So these aren't these normally, is it 30 card? These have been kicking around for a long time actually. I don't think I've ever mentioned them before, because generally they were just there. I've seen ones, I believe, for either 10th edition or M10. It might be 10th edition. I've got some, but they're put away somewhere. And I've forgotten which particular core set they're from, but from way back. And these were literally just sort of given away. So I think it's the first time we've really just brought them up. I think the difference with these was that they can't be found in the booster packs of the set. So yeah, that's probably the big difference. White, blue, black, red and green, and they're all commons and uncommons, but there's one rare in this. I think the previous time I've come across them and looked at them, I'm pretty sure they were just commons and uncommons. So just back to the Planeswalker decks, so you can just get a feel. So there's the Ajani one, and you can see it's pretty straightforward. These are all monocolour. Mythic, rare. So they've still got slightly more higher rarities than I think intro deck, although that's getting pretty close, isn't it? Yeah, they seem to be dialing that. Oh, yeah, sorry, I forgot there's an additional rare, so there is still more. Yeah. And there was a deck builder's toolkit. Now, I'm trying to remember now the point at which this changed for me for the worse. It was probably at least one deck builder's toolkit back. I think we've looked at one already where this was the case. So there's none of that, what they call semi-random, the one where it said, like you got 4 out of 13 possible archetypes. That had stopped, I think at the very least, the previous deck builder's toolkit back. And so the only random element now was for the four boosters. Ixalan Rivals of Ixalan Domineer in the core set 2019. I don't think they were doing the if you remember the really, really early toolkit, the first year that was out, they updated the booster pack content. But I think that was part of that was because it was released at a very strange time of year, whereas these were now lining up with certain sets, and so they didn't feel the need to update the list. And at one point we were getting 2 deck builders toolkits a year. So, and now what am I going to build? So I thought I'd do, we've got dragons in the set. I could have done an elder dragon, but I decided not to. You know, it's always nice when you get an opportunity to do some sort of mono red dragon deck, seeing as in this set most of the, well, yeah, so there was one black dragon, wasn't there? So all the dragons are residing in red. And of course I could have picked one of the 3 colour cards which had had red as the colour, but I just decided to go with mono red. So we get to play, so in the card pool here you can see dragons, Sarkin, and more dragons. So yeah, everything dragon related is here. I've not put in any other utility cards, I don't think, that are not dragon related. So we're just going to start that off as a pool. I'll go through these when I explain the contents of the seed for the Commander Durdle episode. So there we have it. Hopefully that was another interesting look through the set, or a set, and we're looking at 2019 here, M19. Thanks once again for watching. Bye for now, and I will catch you in the next video.